We are committed to creating a safe and supportive space for our guests and listeners, and to provide information and tools that will help our listeners understand, manage, and overcome trauma. We understand that the healing journey can bring up challenging emotions. Therefore, we want to warn our audience that certain episodes may contain discussions or stories that could be triggering for some individuals. The content of the podcast is for educational and informative purposes only, and we encourage you to practice self-care and discretion while listening, and to reach out to a trusted support system or professional if you feel overwhelmed and need help on your healing journey. Welcome, Ms. V. Thank you so much for joining me today on this podcast. I'm really excited about our topic today.
Yes, I am too. And thank you so much for accommodating me because, our schedules as entrepreneurs, we can get so busy. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I am so thrilled to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And so, what we're going to talk about, and I know both of us are going to have a lot of input on this, is losing our voice.
Yeah.
So why don't we start by you telling us about yourself, and then your story of how, what happened with you, and then we'll get into talking about how we got our voices back.
Yeah, well, my name is Valeria, aka better known as Miss V the Storyteller, and I am a storyteller. And what I do is I help women to find their story. I call it your fingerprint story that's uniquely yours, that help you become the woman that you are today. So I use stories, I use my story to help people to find their voices, to find their stories, and then share it in their businesses, if they're doing podcasts, if they're keynote speaking, to share your story. Because once you share your story, you would not believe how many people have gone through what you have gone through, and they just need to hear your story to empower them to keep pushing through. You can make it. So that's what I do. I help people to find their story. I have a podcast where I have guests that come on the show and they talk about their stories. We talk about stories because it's so important. That's how we educate. That's how we learn, is through stories.
And we connect, right? We connect.
Absolutely, we
Huge.
connect. And that's when you go on a date, you're sharing stories about yourself. That's how that person gets to know you, and vice versa. So why not use it in business? And that's what I do. I help people to find it in their business, use it in their business.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's awesome. I love that. That's so cool. So tell us your story. Like, how did you lose your voice?
Woo, listen.
Yeah.
Now,
it was a long time. It was a long time.
It was a long time. When I was 6 years old, I decided to stop talking. What happened was, my dad was a yeller. He yelled all the time. And one day he was just yelling at me. And you can imagine this little 6-year-old looking up at this man just yelling at her. And I don't know what I did or didn't do, whatever the case may be, but it was like so much for me. And I remember distinctly saying, do not say a word, do not open your mouth, don't say anything.
Probably for good reason.
And I stood there in the hallway and I did not open my mouth.
Mm.
And my dad, about a few seconds later, he just looked at me and walked away. So in my 6-year-old mind, it worked because I didn't get put on punishment. I didn't get in trouble. He just walked away. And I don't know if he just didn't know what to deal with me, because in the past, I may have defended myself or said, not me. But this time I just stood there and like took it, didn't say nothing. And so because that worked in that instance in my 6-year-old mind, hey, this works. So don't say anything. And so that was the beginning of me losing my voice. I didn't say anything. And so in my home, it started to work. I didn't say anything, but the bad thing in my home is my siblings, they realized that I wasn't going to say anything. So I got blamed for things that I did not do. But it didn't matter because overall it was working. I wasn't getting in trouble with my parents.
Mm-hmm.
So this went on in school. Let's try it in school. Let's not say anything. See what happened. Wasn't getting in trouble in school.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, my mom got a note from my teacher saying that I needed to speak up. But in my mind, it wasn't a note saying that I was talking too much, because a lot of people got in trouble for talking too much. not talking, really? That's not trouble for me. So went on to elementary school, and it was beginning to get harder and harder because anybody in middle school is hell. Those kids are mean.
Oh, it's
So
awful.
it is horrible. But I continued not to talking into high school. And in high school is where I got physically bullied. And the ironic
Yeah.
thing about the physical bullying was that was the one time that I did speak up. And what happened? I got physically bullied. So it kind of put a stamp on that's why you need to keep your mouth
Yeah.
closed, because look what happened. And so I'm thinking, oh, when I graduate from high school, it's going to be better. No more classmates joking me, bullying me, talking over me, all the trauma that I was going through. But the adults were just as mean.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't get better. They were meaner than the ones in school.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on here? So when I turned 23, I became a Christian, and I'm a God girl. And I remember just having enough. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I am so tired of people talking across me. Every time I would even attempt to say something, someone would cut me off. So I believe that what I had to say wasn't important. So why even
Mm-hmm.
talk at all? They're
Mm-hmm.
not going to listen anyway. I'm being joked, I'm being bullied. All these things were happening to me because I lost my voice, but I didn't realize in that moment that that 6-year-old decision was not necessarily a good, at the moment it was a good decision, but
Right.
as the years progressed, I lost more and more of my, not only my voice, but my self-esteem and who I
Mm-hmm.
was.
Your
So I said,
value, right?
yes. I said,
Mm-hmm.
listen, Lord, you have to give me my voice back. I cannot take this anymore. And God loved me so much and was so gracious. He gave me my voice back. But however, I got it back in a not so good way. I became a cusser outer. I was going to get you before you got me.
That
I
pressure cooker, that of
Yes,
holding in
for
for all those years.
18 years, that's all
Mm-hmm.
I encountered was people talking across me, mistreating me, and bullying me and all that. So I'm like, I got my voice back. I'm gonna get you before you got me. And I was cussing people out. And I remember one day I was at a football game, and it was almost like God just quiet the entire stadium just so I could hear myself talking to this man. And I was going in on him. I was literally cussing him out. And I heard myself. That was the first
Wow.
time that I ever really heard myself in the way that I was using my voice. And I said, oh my God, I have now turned into a bully. I am the same people who
Yeah.
mistreated and hurt me. And listen, I bust out into a cry. Let me tell you, by the
Mm-hmm.
time I got to my car, I called it an Oprah ugly cry. I was like just boo-hooing, I mean, crying to my heart. And I got home and I said, okay, that's it, Lord. Listen, you have got to help me. I need you to give me a medium. Now, I'm not going to say God gave me a whole medium, because you catch anybody on a bad day and God forbid what would come out of their mouth. Traffic alone would make you just
That's
do
me.
something different. But what I'm saying is what God did for me, he made me aware of it so that now
Mm-hmm.
I I fight and try not to be the cusser outer. But I definitely do not want to go back to being the non-talker. So
Mm-hmm.
every day it's a struggle. So I make a purpose in my mind. You will say what you need to say, but you will season your words, even if you have to walk away and pull yourself together and come back and address it, but you would no longer allow anyone to make you lose your voice. And I'm like, thank you, God, for giving me that. But every day it's a constant, because it's easy for me to be the cusser outer. She was with me for 18 years. It's
Right.
easy for me to go back to the non-talker because it was a part of me. So every day is a conscious effort. When I'm
Mm-hmm.
having conversations with people, if somebody says something I don't like, I have a choice. I can choose to say what I need to say in a way that they will receive it. I can choose to cuss them out. I can choose not to say anything, but I have a choice, and I choose to use my voice to say what I need to say. So that is my story, a part of it. And then God had a sense of humor, wanted me to be a storyteller, have a podcast, help people. I'm like, you got your voice back and now you're going to use it.
Yeah, we're going to use it. This story is a great example of what some of the coping mechanisms that we, I guess, get as a child when we're being in an abusive situation, a traumatic situation. We come up with a coping skill because our little minds, we don't know. And like you said, I mean, you told that story so well, in that you recognized at that moment that technique worked. And then you carried that technique and you got confirmation along the way. Oh yeah, look, I opened my mouth and then I got bullied, I got hurt. So I'm going to shut up. And then it's really common what happened to you, which was once you got your voice, boom, we go to the other side, right? We get completely out of balance. And so what you've done is, and I love this story because you really bring it full circle, is you have now found balance. And you're right, because I in my, I call it my survival mode, I was a screamer. And yeah. And it's just because I was in survival mode. So you're already got the anxiety and, everything is right there. All the emotions, it doesn't take much. And then one little thing, and I mean, it can be little, could trigger me. And the ceiling is right here and I'm hitting the ceiling just because I'm so close to it. And I can relate to I'm going to get you before you get me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I could totally relate to that. And that's what I would do. I'm like, I'm going to shut you down with that voice before you have an opportunity to shut my voice down. But the voice that got shut down in me was the voice of vulnerability, the voice of, sharing stuff that someone could take advantage of. And it was really interesting because I could scream, I could yell, I could cuss at them. That came out real easy. But when I felt threatened, like my vulnerability was being threatened, literally my voice literally got stuck in my throat. And I mean, I recognized that probably about 7 years ago. And I could physically feel it stuck in my throat. It was the first time that I became completely aware of the voice being stuck in my throat. And I was with my now husband. We were dating at the time, and we weren't even having an uncomfortable conversation at all. We were having a normal conversation. But there was something about what my response was to him that felt threatening, and the voice got stuck. And I remember him looking at me and he's like, just say it. He could tell I was trying to say something. And I looked at him, I said, it will not come out. It won't come out. And it took a little while and feeling safe with him. And I started with my voice, and I'm still working on it because I still have that people pleaser thing in me. So, and then I've got to find that balance too of not being, I could be very mean if I wanted to be. And so I, like you said, every day I'm having to watch how I say things and be careful, of my words, because I know that words are powerful.
They are very powerful, but we are human beings and we have triggers, things that happen to us that would trigger us. But the key in doing that is, even if you yell or scream, even with me, I'll give you a perfect example from me. I was in the store. Now I'm gonna be 100 with you all. The general public has never been my friend because they were always mean to me. I'm fluffy, they would joke me, mock me when I would walk past. So the general public has never been friends of mine. However, God helped me to see that. And I had to literally go back and forgive the general public for how they treated me. That was the only way that I can go out now and be in the general public and not be mean and nasty, and not like be on the defense. I'm going to get you, which I'm not going to do. I had to like forgive them, but it's still a struggle because people are people. Now, it was a man and he was in the store and there was a little something and I said something. I said something. But what I did was immediately I said, you shouldn't have said that. Now, he was wrong, but I was like, I shouldn't have said that. Let me go back and fix it. Sometimes that's what we got to do.
Yeah, I've done that.
I circle back around and I said, sir, I'm sorry for what I said. However, what you did was just as wrong as what me saying. And I just want to apologize to you for what I said. I've had to do this with my older brother. He also got that gift of yelling from my dad, and that's the only way he knows how to communicate. And he was going in on me one day, and I was like, I am not gonna let him talk to me any kind of way. I ain't gonna cuss him up. So I said, click, and I hung up the phone. Immediately, I was like, that was not the right thing to do. You shouldn't have hung up on him because you would hate it if he, well, now I will be honest. If he hung up on me, I really wouldn't care because that means that he would stop talking and yelling. So I really wouldn't care. However, it doesn't mean that I should do it.
That's funny.
So I called him back or I texted him or something. And I said, I'm so sorry for hanging up on you, but I could not allow you to continue to talk to me the way you were. So I am sorry for hanging up on you. And that was the behavior that I apologized to you, but he was still wrong in what he was doing. And what I find out from talking to women and helping women, we lose our voices in so many different ways. We leave losing with our husband, with our children, on our jobs, just to keep the peace and to keep, everything quiet. But I'm like, when I do that, I'm losing a part of myself, of who I am. God gave me a voice. He created me the way that I am. How dare me allow someone else to take my voice away or to take those things away from me? That's giving them more power than I have over myself. Not going to happen. So what I do is, if I need to take a pause, go to the bathroom, pull myself together and come back and address the situation. But pray and Lord, please let me season my words in a way that they will receive it in the way that it's intended. But you got to have your heart right. Like with my brother, we are not tight. My older brother, we are not close, very close at all. And, he has some issues he got to work on just like I did. But I will not allow his behavior, the way that he talks to me, that does not happen anymore. And I think he's realizing that I'm not going to tolerate it. So when he gets in one of his things, I'll say, okay, you know what? I'm going to get off the phone because here you go again. We're not doing this. You're not going to talk to me any kind of way. So I'm going to have to get off the phone. And that's
that's
what I do.
perfect.
And right. And that's what you have to do. Like the man in the store, his behavior, he was wrong. What he did, I don't even want to go into it because it might make me mad again. I'll say to him, so what I said was wrong. However, you were just as wrong. And the thing about it, he didn't even apologize.
I was going to ask you what his response was.
No,
What did he do? Did he even say anything?
He did not apologize. He said, oh, okay. And he just walked off. That was fine because I made myself right.
Right. And who knows, honestly, who knows what that effect had on him? I mean, you'll never know. You never know.
He could have thought about it. Wow, that lady came back. I was wrong, but he didn't come back and apologize to me. And there was another time where I had a patient. I used to work in the hospital, and this lady came in. She was just nasty as I don't know what to me. And I sat there and I looked at her and I was like, I am not going to let this woman get to me. I was like, okay, all right, ma'am. No problem. Okay. And then she walked away. Do you know that woman sat there? And I think it was the way that I handled her. When she finished at the doctor's appointment, she went to her car and came back and gave me this big bag. She worked at a dental office. She gave me toothbrushes, toothpaste. She gave me all of this stuff in the bag and apologized to me for the way that she treated me. And she apologized. I had to do the same thing, circle around at the hospital. When I took my mom to the hospital, I was very short and not nice to this lady. By the time I sat down, I felt so, I was like, Valeria, that was no. I circled back around and I went to her. I said, ma'am, I am so sorry for the way that I talked to you. I was frustrated trying to get my mom in here, making sure we got it on time. And there was no reason for me to take it out on you. I am so sorry. And she looked at me and she was like, oh my God, this has never happened to me. You're the first person that's ever apologized. And I said, I am so sorry, ma'am. And she was like, thank you so much for doing it. I had to do it another time when I had to go back. So my whole, the reason for me saying all of this is that we're going to mess up. But when you mess up, it's okay for you to go back and circle back and say, I'm sorry. I did that. I shouldn't have done that. And even if the person doesn't receive it, you're doing it for yourself because you recognize the behavior. And the more you do it to be 100, you're going to get sick of going back.
Cleanup, doing the cleanup.
And you're like, you know what? I'm not even going to do it. You know what? Let me just be quiet because I don't want to have to circle back around and apologize to this dude because I don't like him anyway. You know what I'm saying? Just be honest with yourself. I am not going to say anything to this woman because she done made me mad and she's not nice. So, because I'm not coming back around and apologizing to this nasty woman. Just be real with yourself and be
Right.
authentic. I'm not doing it. So, you know what, ma'am? You're right. Have a good day. Bye.
And there's a time for that. And there's a story, and I won't get into detail, but too much about the story, but it was a situation where I was kind of being accused of something that I wasn't doing. And it was a really close relationship. And I remember thinking, because my reaction wanted to be something not very nice, because the person was definitely in the wrong and caught me off guard, which, that can really kind of throw you off too. But I knew that this relationship was really, really important. And as much as I wanted to just shred this person, and I have a sharp tongue when I want to,
we all,
I knew that I had to shut up. And it ended up turning out so beautiful because, I got off the phone and I was in tears, and a lot of the tears was frustration. It I wasn't getting hurt. I was just really, really frustrated. And so, but it ended up being, in the end, a very good relationship. And the person apologized, like went out of their way to apologize. It was very obvious. And that, I just think back on that, and man, I could have taken that in a completely different direction and just destroyed it. I could have in that moment.
But when I hear your story, what I'm hearing is, it's so funny because remember I told you about the cusser outer and then the non-talker. There are times when you don't need to say anything.
Right.
And you didn't. And because you didn't say anything, it had that person over there like, oh my God, because of the way you handled it. And she circled around and apologized like I did. So I have to do that myself and make myself understand, Valeria, it's okay sometimes if you don't say anything, because sometimes it's not warranted.
Right.
You don't need to say anything. And again, I'm a God girl. Sometimes just let the Lord fight your battles. Don't even say anything. And I've had to do that a lot of times, and I'm okay with it. Before, it was a fear like, oh my God, you're going back to the non-talker. It was a fear, you're losing your voice. No, sometimes your voice needs to be silenced so that the other person, it's not for you, it's not necessary about you, it's about the other person.
Right. And
so
usually
and I had to like learn how to do that. Now, the cusserata, I learned how to season my words with her because, I don't want to be professing to be a Christian and cussing folk out. So I learned to season, that don't match. You're like, Lord, she cussed me out and talk about Jesus. That just doesn't work. Look, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I try to just, when I do decide not to say anything, it's like, okay, now why are you deciding not to say anything? What is the reasoning for it? Okay, then you can. But if it's just because you want to just keep the peace, nope. Open your mouth and say something. Do not allow them to mistreat you. So
Right. Yeah. There is a time to say something. There's a time to be quiet. And you have a little knower in you that will tell you that. Right. And one of the things that I found, because, over the years, I lived in a lot of frustration and didn't have a voice. What I learned to do sometimes was to write. And I would write whatever I felt. Whatever was coming out at that moment. And then destroy it, shred it, burn it, whatever. But it is so cathartic to get that out of you. Because it's stuff I don't want to say to anybody. I don't want anybody to hear it.
But when I was younger, I started journaling. And what I did was I would write down what I wish I had said to the person to get it out. Even if it was just laying up out with your big head, you get on my nerves, as a younger person, make me sick, always yelling at me. I would just write down what it was. And you're right. It's so therapeutic to get that stuff out of you. Now, I didn't throw my stuff away. I kept my things because that's going to make me some money. I'm turning my journal into some books and make some money off of you and your rude self. I have all my journals and how I was feeling, how I got over, because people do it all the time. I'm like, I have about 30, 40, 50 journals upstairs, and I will go through them. Yes. Well, I was a
That's
shy
awesome.
child. I was a shy child. As a
That is
matter of fact,
awesome
when I
though.
started out being a storyteller, I was on this I was selected to be on this podcast called Mortified, if you've ever heard of it.
Mm-mm.
And what they do is they have you come on and you share your story, your childhood embarrassments and all this stuff. And I performed in DC and in Maryland. And I pulled out one of my journals, and that exactly what I shared was an experience that happened to me. And it was in my journal that I had. And that's why I was chosen, because when I shared with them that particular story, they was like, oh my God, you got to share this. And when I shared it, what was so funny, I think it was the DC show. When I heard the audience gasp, I didn't realize the effect of it, because it was my
Yeah.
story. I was in it in the moment, but when
Right.
somebody else has heard it, they was like, but then when I continued on, reading and telling the story, then the laughter came, because for me at that moment, the story was funny. But when I wrote it, it wasn't. I was
Yeah.
in the moment. So then, how I handled it was funny. So they have helped me, with my storytelling. They have helped me. I go back and I read where I was to where I am now, what I was
Mm,
thinking, how much I've grown. It's like an empowerment kind of thing. Now, if you
that's true.
still the same way you are 10 years ago, you might need to be laying on somebody's couch, because as time go on, you need to grow and
Mm-hmm.
mature. But if you still stuck in 10 years ago, you might need to get some help. So when I go back 10 years and I pull out one of my journals, I'm like, my goodness, girl, you've come a long way. You
Mm-hmm.
are not the same person. You're good for you. Kudos. Now you still have some issues to work on, but at least you're not as bad as you were back then.
You've grown.
So sometimes you always have to go back and look at and say, wow. Hopefully each year, every year you're getting better and stronger, even if it's just one little area. At least you're
Mm-hmm.
still not the same in that area that you were before. So yeah, we need to grow. And journaling is a beautiful thing. I love it. I still journal to this day.
I was going to ask you,
Oh
I
yeah,
figured you probably still did.
I
And I
do.
mean, this is a great example too, because I'm always saying, it's, we live our lives day by day, right? And sometimes we
Mhm.
wonder, gosh, did I grow? You've got a great way to look at that. But the people that don't, I'll say, where were you a year ago? Where were you 5 years ago? And if you've changed, embrace that. But I love that you are able to go in and look back when you were 10 years old
Mhm.
and look at a situation. And I started kind of a new journal. I have it over here, and I think it's called let me get it real quick. Oh yeah. One line a day.
Mhm.
And this kind of goes along with yours in that, but it's really simple because it's a 5-year journal.
Oh wow.
And so each page is a day,
Okay.
but it's for the
Yeah.
5 years. And you just write a little bit. You just
Yeah.
write a little bit. And then this is a good way that you can watch your growth. And so I just started this. When did I start? In September. So I've just, I've got some of mine already
Oh
going.
yeah.
And you can do the very thing that you're talking about. But I do want to hear how you journal, because everybody has their own unique way, and there's no wrong way to journal, right? So how do you journal? How do you do it?
With my journals now, my journals sometimes is in the morning when I'm meditating. I'm talking to God about something. I might, some people don't believe in asking God questions. I think God loves it when we ask him questions. So
Yes.
I will ask God, what do you need me to do today? So I would journal that. Or if I'm struggling with something, I'm like, God, help me. So I use it in my meditation. But I also sometimes at the end of the night, if I've had a really stressful day, what did I learn from today?
Mm.
Why did that happen? What do you think the reason, and I check on my heart. Are you holding any feelings from anybody? If you're holding any bad feelings from somebody, because when somebody make you mad, sometimes you can hold on to that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so whatever is in me, if it's anger, if it's appreciation, whatever it is, I put it in my journal.
And you just write whatever you just
It
write. There's
comes to
no
me,
rules.
if I'm mad. Now there was something that Oprah did, and I used to do that, but I've grown out of that. I think something Oprah shared her journal one time, and I think she put 3 things to be thankful for that day. It was like a gratitude, and she found you have to find 3 things, and she wrote those 3 things down to be a positive thing. And I did that, and I do try to find something positive, but if it's not, I always leave it. Tomorrow is going to be a better day. You'll find good in tomorrow, something positive within that. So I don't really have rules now. I just dump. But something else you said, do you know pictures will also help you grow? If you don't journal and you have pictures, we have our cell phones. If you go back through your phone and look at your pictures, look at your facial expressions, think
True.
about where you were and what you were doing in that moment, it will also help you to understand that you've grown. Because if I look at some pictures back then and I'm thinking, oh my God, I remember that day, or I remember that, oh, I was a hot mess then.
Yeah.
You'll remember it, the pictures and all that, even if you're smiling and everything and you're all in front of the camera and you're doing that. And then you think about it, oh yeah, I was doing all that smiling, but I couldn't stand him. He was getting on my last nerve. I did not even like him. He didn't even deserve my time, and I was wasting my time with him. And then you realize, oh my God, I'm so glad he is out of my life, you know? So that's showing you that you've grown, and it's a picture. You might not have journaled it, but when you look at it, because there were some pictures back there, I'm like, woo, I am so grateful he's gone. God bless him. Godspeed with somebody else, because he's not with me, So
Right.
you can use a picture. You can go back to your phone, your contacts and all that. And there are so many different ways, but as long as you do take some time to look at where you've come from, it's so empowering, because you'll say, okay, whoo, I'm not the way I used to be. I'm not perfect, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
Yes. And you feel a lot better. And that's interesting. You brought up the pictures, because what came to me about me is, if you look at pictures even 10, 15 years ago, I look very different. I look completely different. And my dear friend Liz, who did my story in my first episode with me, she talks about it. She's like, your entire looks are different. And I look back at some of those, and I had more weight on me. I can see in my eyes, I can see the unhappiness. I can see it. It's just, it's actually hard for me to sometimes look at it, because I tend to go there for a minute, and just remember how that felt. And it did not feel good. That was a really difficult time in my life, for sure.
But you look at yourself now and see how much you've grown and how much you changed. And it was just from pictures.
Right.
So, if you're not a person who, journals, and you want to really look at yourself and see how much you've grown, go back through your contacts or go back through your pictures and look at your pictures and say, wow, because pictures are memories. You can remember what you were doing or what you were thinking. So do that, and show yourself. And if you haven't grown a lot, then ask yourself why. Why am I still stuck here? And it may require that you have to do some hard work. You may have to go in and forgive some people. You may have to forgive yourself for allowing yourself to be taken advantage of or whatever. But then make a choice and say, you know what? I refuse to be this person next year. I'm gonna be better, and make steps to be better.
Right. I know. And the forgiving yourself is big, because that is something that an area that I'm working on, because I'm learning the extent of some of my behavior when I was in my survival mode and who it affected. And, I can't go back and change that. I can't go back and make it go away, but I can clean up my mess. And that's what I've been doing. I've been, and you know what? I don't want to keep cleaning messes up. So I'm trying to do things right now, because it's not fun going back and cleaning up those messes. I mean, it's really important, because it's not only important for your own healing and growth, but it is also helpful for those people that you've harmed or hurt or whatever, and so, and like, I've had conversations with my son, because, he was living in a home with parents in survival mode, and it wasn't a good place for him. And I didn't realize the extent of it really until recently. And so it's a process of forgiving yourself, but it is really important. And I know when I did the childhood abuse healing workshop, the last night of the workshop, we would really dig into forgiveness, because the women at the beginning of the workshop are not in a place to talk about forgiveness.
That's
They
right.
just aren't.
It's true.
They're at the beginning of their healing. And the thing that's so important about the forgiveness is it doesn't take away what the other person did or even what you did, but it releases you. And it really is for me. So for my abusers, I have absolutely forgiven them. Like, I can talk about the stories and they don't have the effect on me at all anymore. And I don't get angry and, like that. And the reason why is because I have forgiven them. And it's not because I'm saying, oh, what you did was okay, and, don't worry about it. It's no, I forgive you for what you did, because I don't want to carry resentment, bitterness, anger, because that's where I was at.
Yeah, but for me, forgiveness, one of the things that I had to understand, because I was so not understanding the whole premise of forgiving. I thought that if you gave somebody, that they had to be a part of your life.
Good
And
point.
a lot of people believe that, and that's why they can't forgive the person, because the person hurt them so much
Yes.
or mistreated them so badly. And I had to realize, okay, I'm forgiving them for me. It's not about them. I give them their issues. I give everything to them. I'm forgiving you for me. And there are bad people that you have to forgive, but you do not have to have them in your world or in your life, especially if they continuously show you who they really are.
Yes.
And that was something, there was someone that's in my family. Okay, whatever. So, and I am not a fan of this particular person, but I've forgiven her. And I've forgiven her, and she cannot be a part of my world, because she's still the same person that she was when things were happening. And I'm good with that. Now, I do try to be cordial if I have to be around that person, but I keep it to a minimum, because I know that that is not a person that I desire, nor do I want them to be in my world, because of the toxicity that they have. So,
Right.
hey, how you doing? And I keep it moving. So
Right.
for those people out there, if there are people in your life that's hurt you or mistreated you, understand this. Forgiveness, first of all, is for you. And number two, if you forgive someone, they do not have to be in your world or in your life. You've forgiven them and you move on. You do not have to have a relationship with these people. You do not have to respond to those people. It doesn't make you unforgiving towards them. It just means that you're protecting yourself and your heart. You're protecting yourself from someone who's done damage. You've forgiven them, gone on about your business. I'm going to go about my business, but I'm protecting my heart, because when I allow you in my space, you do damage to me in my heart, and I cannot allow that anymore. I'm giving you power, and you will no longer have power over me. So I forgive you. Now go on about your business. That's my way of saying it in a way.
Yep.
Just go on,
It's interesting because I 100% agree with you. And where I discovered that is, it was before I was actually doing the workshop, and I had gone through the workshop myself, a childhood abuse healing workshop. And it was at the time when I was taking the workshop, I had recognized, I knew my brother had abused me, but what I hadn't recognized was that my parents as well. I didn't see it at the time, but I was grappling with, I didn't want to have my brother in my life anymore because he was being abusive. And I had my young son, and I was being very protective of him, of that. Right. And I was able to manage that. And I was feeling like, as a Christian, I shouldn't, I have to have this person in my life. He's family. What kind of Christian am I if I cut this person out of my life when he's my brother? Right. And so I went into the workshop like that, and I forget what night it was. But I remember the leader saying, we are called to forgive, and the forgiveness is for us. It, just like I said earlier, it doesn't diminish or do anything about what they did, at all. However, we're called to forgive, but we don't have to reconcile with them if they're continuing to abuse. And I about came out of my seat.
Mm-hmm.
Because it completely broke that lie that I was believing. And it was very stressful because I
Absolutely.
didn't want him in my life anymore, because he was continuing this. He was doing it with my father, who was living with us. And when he finally reached out to my son and did it, that's absolutely when I cut him off.
Mm-hmm.
So it, no. And so many people grapple with that, whether you're a Christian or not. They just think, well, especially if they're a family member. And if you have other family members saying, oh, you have to connect with them. You have to be, continue to have them in your life. No, you don't.
You don't. Absolutely. Listen, I have to share this with you. I think it was last year. Yeah, I think it was last year. I was having a conversation with a family member. And when I got off the phone, I said to myself, why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you allow that person to talk to? Why didn't you? And God let me know that I had not regained my full voice back. I had my voice with the general public, with the world, with coworkers, with husband, with all these, but I did not have my full voice back with family members. I was still that silent person. And that's why they were continuously talking to me and treating me the way that I was, because they were used to that quiet person.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I realized that, I was like, oh no, I need my full voice back. And so I had 3 different conversations, one with each one of them, where I got my full voice back. And what I did was I said what I needed to say to them. My older brother, like I shared earlier, I said, you will no longer talk to me the way that you've talked to me. I am your sister. You're going to respect me. You're no longer going to treat me like the bottom of your shoe. When you go down this time, I'm going to just shut you off. I'm just going to get off the phone. I'm letting you know now.
Mm-hmm.
One other person was my mom, because my mom, yes, it was my
That's a
mom.
hard one.
But I wasn't disrespectful to her. But
Mm-hmm.
I said, Mama, you can't keep talking to me like that. You can't keep treating me like that. I'm your daughter. You can't keep doing it. And when you start to go down this road and you start to do it, I'm just going to walk away, because I'm not going to stand here and allow you to mistreat me. I
Mm-hmm.
respect you. You're my mom, but you cannot keep doing this to me. And then it was one other person. I had a conversation on the phone and I did the very same thing. And it was so freeing for me. Then what I did was I forgave them for those past behaviors,
Mm-hmm.
how they were. But I also put a disclaimer in. I'm going to forgive you. But if you go back to treating me the way you used to, I am done. I am not going to continue to allow me to do that. Now, it's up to you. If you want to have a relationship with me, then you're going to have to treat me the way I deserve to be treated. And that's the same way you have to do your brother. If it's someone in your life, and because they're your family, and you don't
Mm-hmm.
want to cut them off and mistreat them. However, you have to set boundaries and let them know that the way you used to treat her, it's not going to happen anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
if you want a relationship with me, you're going to have to treat me this way. Otherwise, we won't. And you let them know you have to be respectful when you talk to me. You cannot do this. You will not do that, or that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And if that person continues and try to keep doing the same way, then you have a right to say, that's it.
Yeah.
You're out of my life. You have that right, because you're protecting your heart and you're protecting yourself
Right.
from
Right.
allowing somebody to mistreat you or to make you lose your voice. And
Yeah.
so now, one day my brother called me on the phone. He said, hey, how you doing? I looked at the phone like, who is this? Like, who is this, an imposter? The phone up, his name popped up on my phone, but who is this person? And he was calm, and he was just like regular, and I'm like, wow, I should have done this years
Years ago.
ago.
You
But it
know,
took something to happen and even with my mom, she hasn't done it since. Well, she tried one time. I said, well, Mama, remember what I told you? Now you can go there if you want to. I'm out. I'm gonna leave you right here by yourself, and I'm gonna walk out. And she was like, well, no, 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 that's not what I'm saying. Come back, come back. So, it made a staple. It stuck with them. And so it'll work if they want to be in your life. If not, so c'est la vie.
Right.
Give me
And,
peace.
a story just came up that I actually kind of forgot about, that where I had, for the first time, a voice with my brother. And I want to share it because the results of it was so powerful and I was completely calm. So it was after my father had passed, and my then father-in-law was the executor of my dad's estate, and it was very small. It wasn't very much money at all. And, it takes a few months to settle all that stuff. It's no big deal. And my brother, who needed money, began to get nervous that it was taking so long to get the money. And so he starts up, and at this time we were talking because we'd lost our father, and we kind of reconnected a little bit. And so I was kind of testing the waters and working with him, and he was behaving himself, which was not uncommon for a little bit. But what happened is what he was trying to do is he started calling me and harassing me and saying, oh, my Meryl's not doing a very good job on being executor. It's just terrible. It's just taking so long, and trying to get me stirred up. Right. And it wouldn't work. And long story short, it ended up being, he kept trying and it wasn't working with me, because what he wanted is he wanted to move me in to be the executor. Right. And then he would bully me and get what he wants. And I just remember thinking, stand your ground on this one. You're not 7 years old. Stand your ground. And it finally came to a head one night. And unfortunately, my former in-laws got to see the true brother, and saw his true colors. And he blew up because he was calling me and he was screaming at me, trying to badger me, and it wouldn't work. And he'd hang up. He would call them and scream and, and carry on and hang up on them. And it was the most empowering thing. I felt bad because everybody was upset except me. I just remember thinking, hold your ground. You got this. And I did. I stood my ground, and it was interesting because I got done with it. And I thought, for the first time in my life, he didn't bully me into something. He didn't abuse me. I stood my ground. I had a voice. And he's never done that to me again, ever. And, I felt bad.
That.
My in-laws were upset because they saw the true sign, they were all worried about me, and I was worried about them. And I just said, you know what? That needed to happen. And I'm so sorry that you got pulled into it. I'm sorry, but that really needed to happen, because I needed that to be able to, later on, when I cut him off, it was easy.
But what happened was your behavior changed, and he wasn't used to it. He was used to the old Lisa, the one that he could manipulate and get over. And that's the same way with those 3 different conversations. They were used to the old me, the one that was quiet and would just sit there and take it, just to keep the peace. But when I spoke up, and I didn't cuss anybody out, I wasn't nasty to anyone.
Right.
But just like you did, I was stern. I'm holding my ground. I'm not going to allow this to happen. And people freak out because they're used to the old you. It's kind of like somebody who's being abused for, your husband keeps putting his hands on you or whatever. And then the day you rise up and grab that frying pan and bust him upside the head, he doesn't know how to respond because he's used to the old you. And sometimes it takes, I'm not telling anybody out there to hit their husband in the head with a pan. That is not what I'm saying.
What you're saying.
But sometimes it takes you changing your behavior, standing your ground, and saying, that's it. I am not going to put up with this anymore, and hold your ground. And that's exactly what you did. And I had 3 different conversations with each one, with these people, to just say, okay, now I have my voice back. And when I talk to them on the phone now, I feel empowered within myself. Okay, so if they go down this road, they already know what's going to happen.
Right.
So I don't even have to say anything because I've already warned them. They go to my mom, if she even try to go down that road, okay, all right, I'll see you later.
Cut them off.
I'll see you later. And then, they know, oh, the reason why she leaves, that's right. And that doesn't mean that I'm losing my voice or anything. What I'm doing is I'm protecting my heart, and don't count it as being weakness. What it is I'm walking away, especially with my mom, because I respect her and I love my mom, and I never want to be disrespectful to her. However, I have to protect my heart. And so I'll just walk away. But my mom has Alzheimer's. Let me just go back. My mom has Alzheimer's, and I'm realizing that some of her outbursts are from,
Yeah.
from that. But she hasn't had one. But this was at the beginning of it when I found
Mm-hmm.
out. This was at the beginning of it. So, but we're good now. But I really needed to have that conversation with her for that reason. It was more about me getting my full voice back. And it's also about me letting her know that that behavior will no longer be tolerated.
Well, I have to tell this quick story that when we had our pre-interview, because you talked about the full voice, and we were talking about, you were giving me some really good advice on podcast, and because you've been doing them way longer than me. And, we talked about sometimes, having potential guests come on that can be a little challenging. And I was explaining a story to you, and you said, "Oh, well, you don't have your full voice yet." And that hit me. That hit me. I was like, whoa, I got to hear a little more of this, because I thought I did. I thought I had my full voice. And my conversation with you is, and you feel the same way, is we're very protective of our podcast. We're very protective of what the content goes out. And this particular guest she wanted to run this whole episode the way she wanted to do it.
Yep,
And it was not in alignment. Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you saying you don't have your full voice. And we talked about that just like you were talking now. And when we hung up, I'm telling you, that had a profound effect on me. And I don't have a phone number for the lady, because we don't, it's things are done by email, right? I ended up writing her an email, and the thing is, I wasn't going to defend my position.
You don't have to.
And I wasn't going to sugarcoat it. And I basically told her, I said, we have a different idea of how this podcast episode is going to go. And while I appreciate, you wanting to do it your way, I'm sure you'll find a podcast episode with someone else that will be able to accommodate that, but it doesn't fit with me. And thank you. And I wish you the best.
And that's exactly, remember, I told you that's exactly what I did, because I had to realize this is my show. This is the way God gave it to me. I'm going to stick with it. And I just wrote her email back and said, I decline to have you as a guest on my show. I wish you good luck or whatever, because what you're not going to do is come on something that belongs to me and change it to accommodate you. Again, that goes back to giving people your power and losing your voice. How dare me lose my voice on my own podcast?
Right?
That's crazy. I'm like, no. You want to be a guest on my show. So there's, I am one of those guests. If I'm on someone's podcast, I'm going to do what you tell me to do. If you say fill out the form, I'm going to fill out the form. If you ask me to do this questionnaire and it got 900 questions, if I really want to be on that podcast, I'm going to answer the 900 questions. I had one show that I was on, and they gave, I think it was 3 different questions or something, and you had to pick one, to answer or something like that. I did my homework. I read it. And so when they got to that part of the interview, I said, oh yeah, I'm ready. I read the questions and I'm ready. And they were surprised. They was like, what? You did? I said, yes, I do my homework, because I would hope that the guests that come on my show would do the same. I don't ask a lot. I just ask that you share your personal story. And what I found out is a lot of people don't know their personal story. They know what what they do for a living, but that is not who you are. They know their bio, but they don't know their story. My story, when I shared about losing my voice, has nothing to do with what I do as a career until later. That comes out later. My bio comes later. Right. After I got my voice back, then God said, I want you to have a podcast. Then God said, I want you to help people. And now I'm starting to tell you my bio, what I do for a living. But the first part of it is my personal story, my journey of how I became the person that I am today. If I had never lost my voice, my journey would have been totally different. Yes, there were other things that happened to me, throughout my life, but that had the most profound effect on me, because it made so many other things happen because I didn't talk.
Right.
It's so many things. So like if you are abused, that's something that significantly happened to you when you were younger. And it made your journey what it is. it made you think the way you think, how you react and respond to people based on that tragic, incident
Mm-hmm.
that happened. So when you share, when you get to the point where you've healed, because I had to do a lot of healing and forgiveness, then you're able to share that story and people see like a whole different you. And that's why I try to get women in business to share your story, because you make so many powerful connections. You and I connected immediately in a meet and greet because I shared
Yeah.
with you some of my story. You shared with me some of yours, and we were like, oh, this would be great,
Mm-hmm.
because we made ourselves vulnerable. And that's what you do. You want people to know a little snippet of you so they can, so you're a human. If you
Mm-hmm.
are a PhD, a doctor, a physicist, and all that stuff, immediately people are gonna put you all up there. They're
Yeah.
gonna make you so high so you're not touchable to them. They're looking up to you. But as soon as you bring yourself down and say, hey, before I was this physicist, or before I was this doctor, or before I was this, that, and the other. That's why celebrities share their stories. They make their memoir, they write their memoirs so you can see, I haven't been always the best
Right.
basketball player in the world. I came from this, and then people respect you. And it's like, oh my God, I didn't know that about you. Oh, I really respect you because you've been through
Mm-hmm.
some stuff.
And people can connect because we can't connect with perfect, right?
Absolutely.
We
Yes.
can connect with the mess.
Yes, because nobody's perfect, and people that profess and try to say that they're perfect, you don't want to do
You
business
want
with
to
them,
stand
because they're
back.
perpetrating a lie. You done been through some stuff. I'm looking at your face. You've been through something. Your bald head, all your hair done fell out. You've been stressed out at some time. You done been through something. So you sit up here trying to be perfect. That's not the truth. Let me go to the next candidate. Bye.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. And it's funny because I'm thinking about when I started to get my voice back, which was about 7 years ago. I also didn't know who I was. I had all these different identities, and that was about the time that my son got married, and it was just a kind of a transition in my life. And one of the sweetest things that my husband said, we were dating at the time, is, well, let's discover Lisa.
Yes.
And that's what we've been
Yes.
doing. I've been finding out so much about myself and things that I'm like, wow, I had no idea I liked that. I had no idea I was actually good at that, and so getting your voice back opens up the world.
It is, and it's okay for you to go back and rediscover yourself. You can reinvent yourself. That's one of
Sure.
the things God was saying. He was like, when you help women, you're going to help them to rewrite their story. That is how I was, but
Mm.
this is who I am now, because I'm rewriting my story as we are speaking,
Mm-hmm.
because right now, sitting before you is somebody who didn't talk. And now she's on a podcast. She has a podcast. She's helping people. That is a
Mm-hmm.
new story. It could be the
Yeah.
same old way that I was still not talking. People were still abusing me, mistreating me, and all that. That could be my old story, could still be right now. But
Right.
no, I'm writing a new story, a new journey. I'm finding out who I am. I'm also finding out that I'm a good person, because I will go back and apologize.
Yes,
I
that
will.
takes a lot.
Yeah, and I'm a good person because I will do that. I'm also finding out that I'm not perfect, because on there are days when I have bad days and I don't feel like going back and apologizing.
Mm-hmm.
But when I get myself together, even if it's a day or 2 or 3 days later, okay, the last time I talked to you, I know I was wrong. I'm sorry. I do it, but it shows me who I am. That I'm. You know what? You are right. You're not perfect, but you are right, and you're a lot better than you used to be. You are a
Yeah.
lot better than you used. So yeah, that's what you want to do. You want to go back and look at your life, and just sit down on the floor and pull out your calendar, pull out not your calendar, I'm sorry, pull out your phone and look at photos, pull out your
Mm-hmm.
journals and look where you've been and make a plan. Okay, last year I was a hot dang on mess. And here it is at the end of 2023. I'm still a hot dang on mess. Well, in 2024, I am not going to be a hot dang on mess. I'm going to start with this.
Start with one thing.
I'm going to
One
start with
thing.
this one thing, and I'm going to say, if it's, you know what, I'm so sick of my husband looking at me, and saying stuff about me. My hair's getting on my nerves. Sorry. I am
Looks great.
going to lose weight but make sure it's for you. I'm going to start
Yeah.
working out. I'm going to start, doing things, not because if he's saying anything, but I'm going to start work. That's the one thing you can do for yourself. And if you slip up and you mess up, you tell yourself, I'm human. You know what? I'm going to get back up there and I'm going to start walking. I walk. I love to walk. When the
Me
weather
too.
messes me up, and I have back issues, but I've learned to scratch and I've learned to do that. Now I've missed a week because I've been so busy. I'm not beating myself up because it wasn't like I was laying on the couch doing anything. And I said, okay, you got to get back out there. You have to start walking again, get back in. Every time I just keep on doing it instead of allowing it to say, you didn't do it for a week. You might as well give up. Nope.
Or beat yourself up.
Right. And then, I'm marking it on the calendar. So I can go back on the calendar and look through each month and say, oh my God, girl, you did a lot of walking this year. You didn't walk every day, but you made progress. If you are someone who, I don't know, if you have a boss that's nasty to you all the time and you say, you know what, next year, 2024, what I'm not going to do is allow him to keep talking to me a certain way. And so you make a plan and say the next time he come and he throw that pen on my desk, I'm gonna address the issue and make a plan. Mr. Smith, every time it said you use your sense of humor. Every time you come out, you always throwing pens on my desk. Why you always do that? You to stop throwing the pen at me. Did I do something wrong? That's my sense of humor and all that. And I'm addressing the issue without being nasty.
Right.
And making him aware of a behavior that I don't like. And you know what? The next time you throw a pen at me, I'm going to pick this pen up and throw it back at you. I have skills. I can get another job, and just do something comical.
I like that.
Because your boss. You'll know if he'll receive it the right way. And then you'll notice he won't do it again, but you've addressed that. And then you can look back and you can say, well, in 2023, he was throwing pens, but in 2024, he's not throwing a pen at me yet. I have grown. It's just baby steps. I remember I'm notorious for being sarcastic, and I would do it. And one day when I worked in a school, a vice principal, he used to do something that used to get on my last nerve. So I was sitting at my desk and he came in and I said, why do you always do that to me? Are you aware you always do that to me? Well, let me tell you, you always do this to me. And I did it in my comical, sarcastic way. And he said, oh, I wasn't aware that I did that. He had no idea. Yeah. I said, every time. And I said, what you do is when you're mad at me, you call me this. But when we're good and we best friends, buddy or pal, you call me that.
You had to tell.
Yeah. I said, and that's how I can tell. Well, why don't you tell me when you're mad at me instead of just passive aggressive? Right. Why don't you tell me if you think I've done something to you? I didn't know that I did that. And I'm thinking to myself, yes, you did. But I didn't.
We'll go with it though.
Right, I didn't. And so when he would come in, it became a standing joke. When he would come in and he would say, Miss V, that's when we were good. But if he said, Miss Elliott, that's when he annoyed with me.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so when he was, Miss Elliott, can you do so and so and so? All right. What are you mad about? Why are you mad at me? What is it? What is it? Because you said Miss Elliott. What? Oh, no. I said, go ahead and tell me. Well, I really wish you had sent it to me yesterday. Oh, well, I didn't know you needed it yesterday because you didn't say I need it by the end of the day.
Didn't tell me.
So I sent it to you this morning thinking it was okay, but you didn't tell me. So you have to be a little bit clear. And we fixed the situation right then because I made him aware that I know that he's mad with me because he says, Miss Elliott.
So honestly, he wasn't aware that he was calling you two different names. And it could be true. I mean, I know that people just don't have self-awareness. Like they don't.
We're talking about men, not saying that all men are bad or anything like that, but it's kind of like one of these things when when he was in his vice principal mode, he was that, whatever. But then there's times when we would laugh and joke, we talk about football and all that stuff. That's when I'm Miss V, when we're laughing and joking and we're being that that type of person. Even if
Right.
the kids are messing up a student, he sent a student to the office or something like that, he'll come in, Miss V, did so and so come in? Oh yeah, he came in and I told him to have a seat, blah, 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 whatever. Um, but if it's a situation where he would come in the office and didn't see the child, he would flip over to vice principal. Well, I sent so and so into the office, Miss Elliott, and where is him? He's being annoyed with me because he don't see the child. He don't know what happened. So he flipped over. You know what I'm saying? So I learned his behavior and I brought it to his attention. So, that small thing, addressing your boss and finding a way to help him to treat you the way that you want to, that right there will change your life for that whole year, because you'll look back in 2023, that man was so nasty to me. He always did this, that. And then when you look in 2024, my boss, he don't do that to me anymore. I fixed it. So just taking those one small steps, taking those one small things and making changes, rewriting your story, not allowing it to continue into the next year and then next year and then next year and then next year. No, we want to get better. Each year we want to get better. We want to look better. Everybody work on their looks. They want to look younger. Okay, well, make your attitude younger. Make the way you treat people better. The way you treat yourself better. Work on the inside as well as the outside.
And you bring up a really good point in your interaction with, your vice principal. And that is, a lot of it is the delivery of how you deliver the message.
That's what I call seasoning.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I used that term earlier and I like that. And you and I are so much alike that we can have our really sharp tongues and we can shred somebody and walk away, and we could. But you and I work really hard to make sure that we get the message across, but we're not being mean. And I love your kind of sarcasm, because I can be I can be snarky too. And I love that. And you can kind of deliver it that way, but all in the delivery of the message. It's very different if I said, like your vice principal comes at you and calls you the different names, but again, it goes back to the delivery of the message. And I've had to learn how to, season my message. And I've gotten actually pretty good at it.
Yeah, but for me, what happened is, because I was so quiet, I paid attention, and my hearing, I could read people like you wouldn't believe, because the silent people are the deadly people. They always say that. That's because I pay attention. I sit there, I don't say anything, but I'm listening to the way you're talking to people. I'm looking at how you handle different things. And that came from being quiet for so long, because I'm not running my mouth. So I'm paying attention.
You're paying attention.
I'm listening. And I'm telling you, I am so good at, when I watch murder mysteries, I can usually within the first 5 minutes figure out who it is, or I can do it because I pay attention and I listen, when I'm doing it, because I didn't have a voice and I didn't use my mouth. I used my other senses.
Right.
And that's how I could tell with him. One day I noticed, I said, every time he called me Miss V, we cool, but every time he go down that Miss Elliott, he's annoyed with me, or something that happened, and he's in the vice principal mode, and I paid attention to it. I do it even with my family, and even, with different things. I can look at people and I can see it. I'm like, oh my God, she's still hurting from that. It's like a heightened kind of thing. So yeah, but when you lose your voice, your other senses do get heightened to a certain extent, especially if it goes on for so long.
Yeah.
However, you want to make sure you use it for good and not bad. Like I use my sense of humor with him. When I realize it, I could have went at him and cut him up and said, what, if you, every time you call Miss Ellie, you come in here, you always yelling at me and fussing at me. I'm so sick of you, whatever. I didn't. I use humor. That is my defense mechanism. When something get too tight or whatever, I would go into sarcasm or just humor. And it works for me. It doesn't work for everybody, because I'm naturally funny. So it works for me. But if it doesn't work for you, you have to find that thing that works for you and you have to use it. It's like a tool. We have to have tools that we use, like me, sometimes just walking away. You know what? I can't do this right now. And I have said it. I literally said it out of my mouth. I can't do this right now. You know what? I'll call you back.
Yeah, I need a minute. I say I need to go process. I
Mhm.
need a minute. I need to go process. But you're bringing up a really good point about when it's time to be quiet and observe, because you are so right. The fact that you paid attention, you were observant, and you learned a lot about your situation and about the people. Because we're so busy, I think we have the opposite problem is we want to talk too much and we're not
Mhm.
listening. God gave us 2 ears and one mouth, right?
Mhm.
And so and that is something that came from my trauma, where I want to fill the air all the time. I
Mhm.
always wanted to I couldn't have quiet, because it was actually frightening to have quiet, because that means something was going to happen. And
Yeah.
so I had to learn to be okay with being quiet. And now I embrace, like the peace and the quiet. But there is a time and to be quiet and just watch and listen.
Mhm. There is, and you learn so much more. And you are absolutely right and correct about people. There are people that cannot stand when it's quiet,
Mm-hmm.
because I am notorious on the telephone for getting dead air. I will give you dead air in a heartbeat. When someone is going down a road and all that, I don't say a word, and they're saying hello. You're there.
Yeah.
Oh
Are you
yeah.
still there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm listening, and
Mm-hmm.
I will let them talk and talk and talk and talk. Because I'm okay with not talking. Hey, I did it for a long time. It's okay with me. It doesn't bother me not to say anything. Are you finished? And then say whatever I need to say, and I'm done with it. So I think it's okay. Sometimes you need to do that. And my sister, I have an older sister, and she likes to talk. So I let her. I have put the phone on the bed and walked away. Uh-huh. Went in the bathroom, brushed my teeth, came back out. Uh-huh, uh-huh. Because I'm good with that.
Oh
I'm good.
my
She likes to
gosh.
talk. I'll sit and listen. I don't like to talk. Go for it. And
Oh
she
my
doesn't
gosh.
even know. And then I'll pick up the phone. Girl, I didn't know that happened. You she likes to. I don't. She's always been the talker. She's the one that would get the notes at home. She's the oldest. She would get the notes at home for talking too much. I'm the
Yeah.
complete opposite, not talking at all.
Mm-hmm.
My older brother, he likes to fuss, 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 fuss. He'll talk, and I sit right there and let him just as quiet.
So your default is still to be quiet, right? Is
It
your
depends.
default?
It depends on the situation. Like with my sister, I know that she loves to talk. So I let
Mm-hmm.
her. It makes her happy. I'm good with it. And I listen. Even if I put the phone down and go do something else, I'm still listening, because I
Mm-hmm.
can come back and repeat whatever she said. I can come back and say it. So I'm not ignoring her. I'm allowing her. My brother, he likes to fuss or whatever. And when he finish, are you done now? Okay, you finish. All right. Well, I'm going to do this, and I'll talk to you later. Bye. Boom. Because what I don't want to do is end up having an altercation with him.
Right, right.
So it's best to let him do whatever. Because there was one time he was going, and I walked away literally because I didn't want to hear, because he was just going on and he was pulling up stuff from the past and just fussing and yelling or whatever. And when it got silenced because he stopped talking,
Mm.
I came back to the phone and I said, okay, all right, I'll talk to you later. Bye. That was it. Because it didn't matter what I was going to say. He wanted an argument.
Yeah,
He
he was looking
wanted
to
that.
argue.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
not giving it to you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, goodbye. And walked away, because I'm not feeding into that negative energy. I'm not giving that to you. So I'm not. So I do use it. I don't use it to like before, out of fear,
Right.
or whatever that, but I use it sometimes as a tool to keep the peace for myself. Like, I know people, and like you said, I learned my siblings because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't talk. I learned, like in school, I learned my teachers, I learned my classmates, I learned people just sitting back. And even now, it's just such a part of me. I'll sit and I'll be quiet in the room and I will observe everything. I'll just look around and I'll notice something. And I'll give you a quick story. I was We were at a restaurant. No, we were at the movies. It was a new movie that had come out, and we were in the theater and we were waiting, and I was, quiet, and I'm paying and I'm observing. There was one waitress, because we were at what we call cinema draft house here, and it's a movie theater where you can eat food and you
Yeah.
order popcorn, maybe a different name, but it was that type
Yeah.
of theater. There was one woman who was serving our theater, and I'm like, what is going on? All these people in here, and they have one person. So the movie didn't start on time, and it was going into 20 minutes being late, and nobody
Wow.
addressed the issue. So I said something. And there were some ladies sitting to me to the right, and I finally said something. And I was like, what is going on? So I said to the manager, I said, is there a manager here? I said, no one has addressed the issue that the movie has not started and is 20 minutes late. You would think that someone would come out here and say something to us. Oh, we're having problems with it. And then I addressed the issue with and I said, well, could you explain to me why you have one woman, that lady over there, she's the only one serving in this theater. When I went into the hallway to the bathroom, I saw people with the same shirts on that said crew out there talking and laughing, and nobody's helping her. It is ridiculous how you all are working her. And so he came up with some story or whatever, he said, and I said to him, I said, I think if you're short staffed, then somebody needs to come from out the office and help her out, because it's ridiculous that she's working this hard. Do you know that lady, when I think, I don't know, I had to go back out for another reason. When I came, she walked past me so briefly and she said, thank you, and went on about her way because she got help. The manager came out and started to take orders. And then another guy showed up to start taking orders. But it was all because I was sitting there and I was just paying attention. And then I stood up for the underdog, because she wasn't going to say anything. She was afraid she's going to lose her job. Nobody wanted her to lose her job.
Right.
So I stood up for her. You don't have to say anything. I'll do it for you, because it's not right. And the next thing I know, it was like ended up being 4 people coming in there, and they were serving and it was helping her. I don't care about the other theater, but to have that one girl, no, wasn't going to happen. But I observe, I sat there and I watch, and sometimes it's good. And you can learn a lot by closing that mouth of yours and just watching and listening. It can empower you. It can give you some leverage.
Yeah.
To come back.
One thing I wanted to bring up too is because so often we feel like we have to defend our positions. And that's something that I'm learning not to do. If I make a decision, I don't need to defend it per se. I might need to explain it in certain circumstances, but my whole point is you don't have to defend yourself all the time. Sometimes no words are enough.
No words are power. Sometimes just not saying anything is just as powerful as saying anything. So again, that goes back to what I'm saying is when I got my voice back and when I got my full voice back, I had to reconcile and say, okay, when you choose not to say anything, why? Are you going back to being afraid, that little girl? Is that why you're not saying anything? Or are you being quiet to gain information? Are you quiet? Are you being quiet, for the other person so you can hear and receive what they're saying? Why you're choosing not to talk?
Right.
And then that helps you out a lot, because again, like I said, the silent person is still there. The cusser outer is still there. Unfortunately, they're still there, because when you drive, woo, you could just and nobody's in the car, you could just go off. But
oh yeah,
or the cusser outer, why do you feel like you want to just tear this person up? Why do you want to cuss her out? What is it? Why do you feel like you need to use this particular, way to go at this person? And, in that moment of me pausing, I'm trying to figure out why. What did this person say to make you so mad that you want to cuss them out? Why do you want to give them your power? Don't do it. Have an internal dialogue. Don't do it. Don't say it. Excuse yourself, go to the bathroom, deal with whatever, and come back. And while you're in there, if you're a Christian, you're like, Lord, please season my words, but I really need to address this, because this person, oh no, she needs to be addressed, or he needs to be addressed. Help me to season my words so that they will receive what I'm saying. Now, usually when I come back, it's either humor or kind of like sarcasm in a way that's funny. Like, the whole time you've been talking about that, I'm just thinking, why did she just ask me You done went on this tantrum about this thing. All you had to do was ask a sister. I'm sitting right here. All you had to do was just ask a sister. That's all you had to do. And that deflates all of that stuff. They'll start laughing or whatever if you are a humorous person. But, I do remember doing this because I really wanted to cuss this person out. Oh my gosh, she deserved it. Of being 100. The girl deserved to be cussed. She needed to be cussed it out. And I said, cussed it. I said it on purpose, out. And she was just going in and going on and on and on. I was like, if she don't shut her mouth, I'm telling you, Lord, I'm going to cuss this chick out if she don't stop it. I'm telling you. When she finished, I said, hold on one second. Let me answer the phone. There was nobody on my phone. There was nobody. I'm just lying. I was lying. I was like, oh Lord, let me send this back to her. And while I was doing that, I was secretly inside praying. Yeah. I was literally inside like, Lord, please help me address her. Please help me not to cuss her out. Please help me to say words so she can receive it. And when I finished, I put the phone down and I said, now back to what you were saying. I said, you didn't really have to do all of that when it came to me. I don't think I've ever given you a reason for you having to talk to me that way. I have never. I say every time that I've come to you out of kindness. Every time I come to you, I'm laughing, I'm joking. Yeah, I might be sarcastic, but it's never in a harmful way. So I don't know what has made you so angry that you felt like you needed to come and address me that way. So I'm just letting you know that, I don't like it. And please don't do it again. I said, because it took everything that was in me not to go back and cuss you out. Literally, my angel was back there fighting and pulling me back from,
pulling your hair.
I don't want to, and I'm like, and I don't want to mistreat you. I don't want to, treat you the way you treat me. So we need to figure out a way that we can communicate together because this would not happen again. And
what was her response?
She was like, you right. I know, but I was just so mad and I couldn't figure out why you would do something like that. And I said, do you really think that I would do something like that? Do you really think? Let's think about our relationship. Let's think about our working relationship. Have I ever? Well, no, I said, I never said that. I never said that. And I don't know who told you that. And I said, you need to go back and check your resources because I've never, ever said that about you. Ever. And I said, you know me. I would come to you, girl, your hair look a hot mess today. What happened to you? You know my personality. You know me. You right. But she really did because she came at me and but I fixed it. Again, I used my phone. I was like, Lord, I prayed.
I like that idea.
And she received it. She did. She received it. And, it also gave me some information because I sat and I listened to her and I realized other people were getting in her head. And that person that was getting into her head was somebody who didn't like me, didn't like our relationship at all, because when I would come around, she would stop talking to this person, talk to me, we would laugh, we would joke or whatever, and the other person, I was like, okay, and that's what happens when you pay attention. Yeah. When you don't say anything, even though I was angry, I was listening and taking it all in. And once we finished, I went back and I went through the whole, and I was like, that's not even really her. That's so-and-so. So I need to make sure that when I'm around so-and-so, or when she's around, that I'm careful what I'm saying because I see her for who she truly is. And it's called observation, just paying attention. Don't always have to be the person that talk. You don't always have to be the person that be the center of attention. Sometimes you need to be the fly on the wall and just listen.
Yes. Yep. I know I had a similar situation at a workplace where this lady came into our department and immediately had it out for me. I didn't realize it at the time. And I was the one that was training her. And I didn't realize at the time that she clearly despised me. And she took her time instead of working and spent time turning the entire office against me. And, I'm watching this thing evolve, and the people that, I don't know, friends with, but, worked really well with, all of a sudden they're not talking to me and they got, and so it took, a little while, and I finally figured out what was going on. But I also heard, and I know this came from God, be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Be quiet and just work. And I'm telling you, I don't remember how long it went on, probably for 3 to 4 months, and she would escalate it and escalate it and escalate it. And I remember I would spend sometimes my lunch hours in tears, like literally,
Mm-hmm.
but I would come in every morning. I would say good morning to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I was 100% respectful to every single one of them, even though they were turning on me. She went so far as to, she sat right by me, to send an email out to everybody that she's going to drive an hour and a half away to pick up lunch, bring it back to the office to share with everybody but me. I mean, we're talking, it turned into junior high kind of mentality. And that one made me chuckle. I actually thought that one was kind of amusing. Like, she was trying everything she could, but I had to keep my mouth shut. And it was hard because the people that I worked well with and that I really liked were turning against me. You know, they had completely turned, the whole office did. And so, long story short, she ended up getting herself in so much trouble. She got laid off. And I continued to just be nice to everybody. And it took a little time, but they all came back around.
Oh yeah.
They all
But
came back around.
But she was getting, the reason why I was escalating is because you weren't feeding into her behavior, because she wanted
Exactly.
it. She wanted, that's why you needed to be quiet. But also the people in your office showed you who they really were.
Yep.
Because if they really knew you, then they wouldn't believe her. It should have been one or two people say, you know, Sally over there saying all this stuff, but I don't find it to be true. I think you cool, and still had a relationship with you. But again, that tells you, people show you who they really are, and you need to
Yep.
pay attention. You really do
Yeah.
need to
Yep.
pay attention. And
Yep.
I love the fact that you forgave them, and you know, when they came
Mm-hmm.
back around, you forgave them and
Yep.
whatever. But I would have also been very cautious around them, because they
Yes.
flipped on me one time. So yeah, you showed me your cards and I paid attention. I memorized every card in your
Yes.
hand. So
Yeah.
I'm going
The
to tread
relationships
lightly.
were arm's length
Hmm.
for a while. Yeah. And, you know, some of them came around and actually apologized. And so they were welcome back in a lot more. But you're right. I didn't even think about that. Honestly, I didn't even think, but I was very cautious afterwards.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't process that out loud. I'm glad that you said that, but it's true. I mean, I found out who they truly are. And it was, I'm telling you, it went on, and it was really stressful, because I would go on my lunch hour and have tears, or, you know, on the way home,
Mhm.
you know, I even thought about getting another job, and I heard, nope, nope, nope,
Yeah.
you're gonna push through this, you know, and I
But that,
did.
and that's what I love. Sorry to cut you off, but that's what I love about God, because He allows us to go through things. And it talks, when I remember when they talk about, you know, when the furnace is turned up with
Yeah,
pure gold, it's burning off all that stuff, and it's helping you to become the Lisa that I need you to be.
right.
So I'm allow this to happen. You can make it through it. You're strong. You can do it. You can do it. Just don't say anything each day. And God is like, I'm with you. I'm helping you out. You're going to make it. You're going to make it. You're going to make it. And when you came out of it, you're like, look what happened to her. And I didn't even have to do anything. First of all, God fought my battles for me.
Right.
He sent her on her merry way. But then He dealt with the other people in the office's heart. And they realized, oh my God, I was listening to the devil, or
Mm-hmm.
you know, somebody that was toxic, that had something against her. I was wrong. Let me apologize. I'm so sorry, or whatever. But God also allowed you to really understand, when people show you who they are, pay attention, you know, feed them
Exactly.
with a long spoon, you know, because they showed you. I would turn on you in a heartbeat, you know, and just treat them accordingly. So I love when I come out of stuff like that, because I've been in situations like that numerous times. But each time I'm like, okay, did I pass this test? Because I don't want to do this
I
again, you
know,
know.
right?
I don't want to do this again, Lord. You know,
No.
what lesson? And then go back and look at, what lessons did I learn from this? I remember I was doing contract work, and I didn't understand why I was there. But when I look back and I realized, oh my God, the reason why I was there was God was helping me to understand that you need to stand up for yourself. When someone accuses you of doing something wrong, you need to stand your ground and stand up for yourself, no matter who they are. Make sure
Mm-hmm.
you do it the right way, but you need to stand up for yourself. And there were a couple of instances, and I had to stand up for myself. And this was the owner of the business. And I stood up to him, and God was like, this is who you need to be for where I'm going to take you. You need to be able to stand up for yourself, hold your ground without losing your value or tearing yourself down with negative talk, because we do
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know.
yeah.
And I went back and I was like, no, I know I did not do it. I went back and investigated, and I said, nope, that's not me. God also showed me in this particular instance, and I love this. Ever since God showed me this, I share this with everyone. Stop picking up other people's problems and
Amen.
issues and situations. They don't belong to you. You don't need to be carrying them.
Or
I
fixing
was
them.
sitting at I was sitting at the desk, and I realized that is her issue. That's her. That's not you. Do not carry that. Do not pick that up. That belongs to her, and give her back her issues, because she had major issues. And I was starting to pick them up by always trying to defend myself or
Mm-hmm.
make an excuse for her or doing I was like, no, 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 no. You got your own issues.
Mm-hmm.
Give it back to her. And I had to think about it. That's how me and my father's relationship got better, is because I gave him back his issues. I was carrying his issues for a long
Mm-hmm.
time. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's his life. Those are his choices. Those are his issues. Let him deal with it. When I let those things go, I'm telling you, I was literally carrying suitcases around,
I
other
believe it.
people's baggage and other people's issues. I let them define my decisions and all that. I was like, nope, not anymore. Not doing
Probably
it
lost
anymore.
100 pounds dumping all
Yeah.
that stuff off your back.
As it began to drop off, I'm starting to feel freer and lighter
Mm-hmm.
and lighter and lighter. I'm like, oh my God, stop picking up other people's issues. And I don't do it anymore. Listen, ever since I've realized that and it was revealed to me, I'm like, nope, not gonna happen. I have my
No,
own issues to deal with, and that is so powerful. Ladies, do not pick up other, not even your children, your husband. If your child, if you can fix a situation and help them, then do it. But sometimes they have to go through things themselves in order for
mm-hmm.
them to grow and mature. We want to block them. We want to stop them. We want to save them from all this pain and anger. Well, if you hadn't went through the things you went through, you wouldn't be the person you are today,
That's
whether
right.
it was a good or a bad thing. You know, kids, they have to go through that. You can't protect everyone. Sometimes you just got to let them go through it. I have
Yep.
like one of my nephews, he's one of those people you got to show him. You could tell him all you want to, he don't get it, but he got to go through it. He learned by going through. That's
Mm-hmm.
his learning. So, because I used to get in the middle of it and try to defend him and all that. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
nope, auntie, no, I'm not gonna be your lawyer anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not gonna be your
Yeah.
lawyer anymore. So
It's going through the refiner's fire, and it's being refined, and it's,
yes.
and it's ugly. It's messy. It's not, it's painful sometimes, but you come out the other side shining. You really
Mhm.
do. And beauty comes from ashes,
Yep,
right?
absolutely. Yes, yes. And that's what we want to be. We want to be that diamond. We want to be that 24 karat gold. So yeah, we're gonna have to go through some things. Yes, it's painful, but we're resilient. We can do it.
Right. You have evidence before you that you've been through some hard times and you've made it through. So you have the evidence that you can do it. And, the idea is to get through that stuff with the least amount of carnage and cleanup,
Mhm.
and that's what we're talking about is how to do that without creating a lot of damage. And then, and the important thing is we're going to make mistakes. We're going to say things, but go and clean up your mess. And my husband
Clean
and
it
I were
up.
talking about that yesterday. I'm like, I'm getting tired of cleaning up my messes. I don't like it. My ego does
Mhm.
not like it. So I'm trying really hard not to do that because my ego
Yeah.
doesn't like it.
That's what I said earlier. You'll get to a point where you're like, I am so sick of apologizing. I am so sick of having to circle back around. Let me just do it right now. And
Let
in
me
the
do
moment,
it. Let me have a minute, think this through, react properly so that I'm not having to spend all this time cleaning it up.
absolutely. That's what we got to do. I don't feel like cleaning up no more. I've been there, done that. Enough. Finish.
Oh gosh, that's so funny. This has been a great conversation. And let me ask you this. What is one thing you want to leave our listeners with?
Do not ever allow anyone to take your voice away. Do not allow your husband, your children, your boss on
Yourself.
your job, yourself Do not allow that to happen to you. Your voice is, God gave you a voice, use it. What you have to say is important. So say it, even if you have to season your words or you have to circle back around and come back and address the issue. Never, ever lose your voice. And if you've lost your voice, I want you to go ahead and put some steps in order to get your voice back. Go back, address those people. Go back and forgive those people, but let them know you will no longer allow them to mistreat you or treat you the way they've been treating that you don't like. Do not lose your voice.
And one thing I like that you said earlier too, and I'm going to bring it up again, is why did you lose your voice? Why in that situation are you not feeling like you can say what it is you need to say? Spend some time finding out why. Be curious. Don't be judgmental with yourself. Be curious. Why? Wait, when I wanted to say that, but I didn't. Why did I do that? And that's a great journaling right there. That you could journal with that alone.
Yeah.
Right.
Because mine was out of fear and to protect myself. That's exactly what it was. And it caused me to have a lot of fear.
Right.
Fear of what people are going to say, how they're going to mistreat me. So yeah, going back and do a self-evaluating. And it's painful when we go back and dig up those things, but it's also good when we go back, we pull it up, we deal with it, we get it over. It's like a weight lifted. You feel so much better.
You do.
Because what you're doing, like me, you're carrying all this stuff. You're lugging around like carry-on luggage. You're rolling around suitcases. You're literally carrying all this stuff around all your life, and you're having, and you look a hot daggone mess. Get rid of that mess. Start taking care of yourself and smile on the inside and the outside. Do the work so you can get to the point where people look at you. Oh my God, you look so different. What are you doing? You look so beautiful. You have this glow. That's because I got rid of those suitcases, those carry-ons. I got rid of that baggage, and now I'm free and I'm loving me.
Oh, amen to that. That's a good note to end on for sure. So with that said, why don't you share with the audience how they can reach out to you if they wanted to listen to your podcast or just wanted to talk to you?
So you can go to Miss V the Storyteller Podcast. It's on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel if you want to look at episodes that I've done. You can also visit my website because I do one-on-one coaching. If you're someone who really wants to find their story and know how to use it in your business, I have one-on-one coaching. I also have online classes that I do. I try to do an online class every month, but on my website, it shows you, when the class is going to be. So it's missvitastoryteller.co. That's CO. Just go there. You can email me. My email, just email me through the website and I will get back with you. So, let's get these stories out here, ladies. Let's help other people heal. Let's find our stories, share our story, and let's get some women healed. Let's help some other people out. Yeah.
Let's go out of business. That's what I want. I want to go out of business, find something else to do,
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I love, contact Miss V if you want to figure out what your story is. I love that you help women find their story. And that, oh my gosh.
It's so powerful. Once you know it and you understand it, it helps you to understand why you're the person you are today. And it also helps you to understand where you come from. I mean, I'm literally looking at myself and listening to myself. Oh my God, you didn't talk and you have not shut your mouth yet. Ever since you got your voice back. That's a good thing.
That's a great thing. That's a great thing. And I'm sure it helps you in the direction you want to go, right?
Absolutely.
So it's all good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This has been really, really good. I knew we were going to have a great conversation. I was excited about this podcast because having your voice is just critical.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I enjoy having it. I love helping people and empowering people and helping people to get their voice back. I am so passionate about it because I know exactly how you feel. Been there, done that. And I don't want anybody to ever feel like I did. I mean, this is at the end, but there was a time when I wanted to take my life. I felt so bad. Yeah. And I'm sure that there are women out of there, but we've lost our voices and our value and who we are. And you want to end it all because you're like, I can't live like this anymore. Well, I'm telling you, you can make it through because I did.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you again. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.